The next sorting algorithm we're going to start discussing is called merge sort. The merge sort algorithm is the first one we're going to discuss that takes O of n log n time in the worst case. So this one's already better than any of the other sorting algorithms we've discussed up to this point. I should mention though that this is a recursive algorithm. We mentioned a little bit here and there about what recursion is, so we're finally going to see an example of how the methods would call themselves. Today we're going to discuss the fundamental operation of this algorithm, and then we'll get to the rest of it in the next lecture. But the main operation is taking two sorted lists and merging them together. So the advantage here is because the lists are already sorted, the way we will merge them is we'll do one pass through the input, and then the output is just going to be put into a third list. So we're going to read both lists, and we're going to put all those entries into a third list, and that third list is going to be sorted. So the way we're going to do this is we have our two input arrays, which we're going to note here as A and B, and we're going to let C be the output array, which is going to be the merged versions of A and B. We'll also have three counters, which I'm going to call A counter, B counter, and C counter. Now these counters are going to be initially set to the beginning of their respective arrays. So A counter is going to be the beginning of A, B counter is going to be the beginning of B, and C counter is going to be the beginning of C. So the way we do this merge is we're going to take the smaller of A counter and B counter. Whichever one is smaller, we're going to copy that into the next entry in C. We'll then increment the appropriate counter. So after each iteration, we're always going to increment C counter, and then we're going to increment either A counter or B counter, depending on which element we copied into C. And then we just keep repeating this until we get to the end. Now it's worth noting that at some point, either A or B could get exhausted. So we get to the end of one of those before we get to the end of the other. And if that happens, then the remainder of the list of whichever one's left over gets copied to C. So for example, if we copy everything from A into C, but we still have some elements left in B, we just then copy everything that's left over in B and put it into C. We're going to do an example of merging two sorted lists so you can see how this works. So here we have A and B, and notice that both A and B are sorted. So what we're going to do is we're going to merge both of these arrays into C. We start by comparing the first elements in both A and B. So in this case, we're comparing 1 and 2. Since 1 is less than 2, we're going to put 1 into the first element in C. And since we copied from A, we're going to increment A counter, and we're also going to increment the C counter. We're then going to compare 13 from A and 2 from B. So since 2 is the smaller one, we're going to copy that and put that into C. We're then going to increment B counter, and we're also going to increment C counter. We then compare 13 and 15. So since 13 is the smaller number of the two, we're going to take 13 from A, copy that into C. So then we're going to increment both A counter and C counter. We'll next compare 24 from A and 15 from B. Since 15 is the smaller one, we'll copy 15 into C. We're then going to increment B counter and C counter. We'll then compare 24 from A and 27 from B. 24 is the smaller one, so we're going to copy that into C. We'll then increment A counter and C counter. We then compare 26 from A and 27 from B. 26 is the smaller one, so we'll copy that from A to C, and then we will increment A counter and C counter. Now at this point, A is exhausted, because if we look at our A counter, we see that we're outside of the array, we're at the end, so we've copied everything from A into C. So all that's left to do is take everything left from B and put into C. So we'll take the 27 from B, we'll copy that into C, and then increment both B counter and C counter. And then finally, we'll take the 38 from B, that's the only thing that's left over, copy that into C. We still increment B counter and C counter, and we see that we've exhausted both A and B. We're at the end of the arrays, so we have completed merging two sorted lists into our third list.